Three delinquents are standing on the rooftop of a building at night, urinating into an empty beer bottle under the glowing neon sky. The city lights flickering behind them as they laugh loudly and act recklessly, treating the strange act like a twisted ritual, clearly enjoying the chaotic moment. After finishing, they continue celebrating their graduation, drinking alcohol, and laughing even louder, walking around the rooftop in a loose, carefree way, shouting and joking as if trying to make the night unforgettable. Suddenly, one of the boys becomes serious and proposes that the three of them make a pact that will bind them together forever. To prove how serious he is, he grabs the bottle they just urinated in and drinks all of its contents in one go. After a short discussion, the three boys agree to share their deepest secrets. The boy who suggested the pact begins first, speaking calmly and deliberately, while the others sit quietly and listen. The scene then shifts into a flashback to their school days. The three of them are standing in the school corridor, cleaning as punishment, lazily wiping and sweeping the floor while clearly bored. As they work, they look through an open classroom door and notice a girl from another class sitting alone at her desk. She seems quiet and troubled, staring forward without moving much. The boys whisper and make crude jokes about her, glancing at her and laughing in a mocking, immature way. Suddenly, a teacher notices them and sternly tells them to stop slacking off and continue cleaning. His two friends immediately scatter and pretend to work, but the boy who suggested the pact stays behind, quietly staring at the girl inside the classroom with a calculating and unsettling gaze. Later, a few hours pass, and he is shown holding a milkshake, approaching the girl again in a calm and seemingly friendly manner. He gently leads her to a secluded room inside the school and tells her to count to 100, speaking softly while she obeys. And while she is distracted, he takes advantage of the situation and does something unspeakable. After he finished telling his secret, his friends just stare at him in shock, unable to believe what he said. But then, remembering that they had once seen the girl pregnant, they slowly start to believe him, their expressions shifting from doubt to uneasy acceptance. After a brief and tense argument about who should speak next, another boy finally decides to tell his secret. He tells that every day on his way home from school, he had noticed a homeless man living on the streets, and he was quietly fascinated by how the man lived such a carefree, almost aimless life. He observed the man closely and thought, if something ever happened to him, no one would care. One night, he decides to approach the man while he is sleeping. He slowly raises a stone in his hand, his movements hesitant and nervous, his face tense with indecision, as he contemplates doing something very bad. But just before acting, he hesitates and suddenly decides against it, standing frozen for a few moments as he tries to gather his thoughts and calm himself. Then, unexpectedly, the homeless man wakes up, startling him completely. In a panic, the boy raises the stone again, and this time he follows through with the action, the scene showing his shock and regret as it happens. His friends could hardly believe their ears, but after a tense moment, they slowly accepted what he had said, and it became the third boy's turn to tell his secret. At first, he tries to avoid it, nervously insisting that he doesn't have any wild or shocking secrets like theirs, fidgeting and looking away while his friends press him insistently. Under their strong and growing pressure, he finally starts to speak, his voice low and hesitant at first, revealing that 2 years ago, while taking an important exam, he was convinced that he had failed completely. He explains that, in a reckless and desperate moment, he sneaked into a school office where exam papers were kept and set them on fire, accidentally causing several cabinets in the school to catch fire as well. His friends' faces first register shock and surprise, their eyes wide and mouths slightly open. Then, slowly, their expressions shift to anger and disbelief as they start shouting at him, demanding why he is lying. He insists, speaking defensively, that he is telling the truth, but as the argument unfolds, it becomes clear that they themselves were actually the ones who had started the fire years ago. The boy stands there, visibly stunned and speechless. Then, the group leaves the rooftop and heads down to the street, the night air cold against their flushed faces. They tell him to approach the man standing across the street, pour the paint onto him, and break a bottle against his head. They just stood to the side, filming him with their phones and laughing loudly as he slowly approached the man. The boy's steps are hesitant, and when the man suddenly glances up and sees him, the boy freezes, startled, and instinctively turns to step back. His heart is pounding, and he starts moving away, but then he notices his friends laughing even louder, their excitement and adrenaline making him hesitate and reconsider. In a sudden rush of daring and peer pressure, he spins back around and, reluctantly and nervously, carries out the act. The shock on his friends' faces quickly turns to horror. From a nearby bar, a crowd suddenly emerges. Turns out the man they attacked is a member of the YAKUZA. Panic spreads immediately as the crowd begins running toward them. The three boys start to flee, their footsteps fast and frantic. One of them is caught almost instantly. He is struck with a bat and falls to the ground, surrounded as the gang closes in. Meanwhile, the other two manage to duck into a taxi parked nearby, hiding in the back seat. The taxi driver, who had just stepped away to use the restroom, notices the commotion and shouts at them to get out of the car immediately. They plead with him to let them stay, their voices panicked and desperate. This catches the attention of one of the gang members. He almost reaches the taxi when one of the boys suddenly pushes the head of the sleeping girl out of the car window, making it seem like he was talking to her. Their trick does not work, and they fail to fool him, as the gang member still decides to come closer to check the noise inside the taxi. At that moment, the boys quickly climb into the front seats in a rushed and nervous manner, and they start the engine and steal the car, driving away in panic. While they are already on the road, the sleeping woman in the back suddenly wakes up and, confused and frightened, assumes that something inappropriate has happened to her, so she begins screaming hysterically and waving her arms. The boys try to calm her down while driving, speaking quickly and anxiously, and after a few chaotic minutes, she suddenly passes out again, collapsing back into the seat, allowing them to briefly sigh in relief. Soon after, they encounter a police checkpoint ahead, and panic immediately fills the car. They shift into reverse and slowly try to avoid attention, but the woman suddenly shouts out of the window, which instantly draws the police's attention. Realizing they have been noticed, they speed away, and the police begin chasing them. They turn into a narrow alley and stop near an abandoned taxi, where the atmosphere becomes tense and heavy. While hiding, the guy finally confesses that the rooftop confession was fake and was only meant to mess with him. But at that exact moment, police found and arrested them. Inside the car, the two boys start arguing nervously, their voices tense and irritated. One of them angrily says that if the other had not poured paint on that man, none of this would have happened. The other responds with clear frustration, saying that he only did it because he was forced to, speaking in a defensive and annoyed tone. The scene then cuts to two police officers talking inside their car. The male officer calmly asks his partner how many people in the world are good and how many are bad. She answers that it is probably 50-50. He quietly disagrees and says that only about 10% of people are truly good and 10% are truly bad. She asks about the remaining 80%, and he explains that most people are simply indifferent, acting according to the situation and their own benefit, sometimes doing good and sometimes doing bad. While saying this, he suddenly turns the car away from the route to the police station, and his partner looks at him in confusion. He drives to a sushi shop under the pier, where the gang member they had earlier covered in paint is waiting. The policeman leaves the boys there and drives away with his partner, watching as the gang members take the boys inside. Inside the sushi bar, a man in a white shirt tells them to sit, while other gang members stand around, watching closely. He calmly says that everything can be negotiated and asks if they know any bad guys. The boys only argue nervously, and he quickly understands they have no connections. He then asks if they have money. Both boys look at their rich friend, but he is just a schoolboy with a wealthy father who would not give him anything. The man realizes they have no money either. He then tells them, since they have no money and no connections, they will pay with their fingers. One of the boys quickly pressures his friend, saying they are here only because they tried to save him and that he should sacrifice his finger first. Feeling guilty and confused, the friend agrees and gives up his finger. As they prepare to leave, a gang member suddenly stops them and says one finger is not enough. They need another. The same boy then turns to his other friend and blames him for everything, saying this is his fault. Overwhelmed with guilt, the second boy agrees. The man in the white shirt adds one rule: the finger must be from the hand he writes with. Gathering his courage, he gives up his finger as well. Just as they are about to leave, the man in the white shirt stops them again, but this time he calmly invites them to sit down and eat sushi. They return to their seats and start eating quietly, trying to act normal, when suddenly the man notices the trick. The finger was not from the hand he writes with. His expression changes immediately, and disappointed, he demands another finger. This time, the boy cannot convince anyone. His friends silently push him to the floor and hold him down, and one more finger is taken and handed to the man. After that, the three of them slowly walk toward the exit, changed and shaken. Understanding that every action has a price, they step outside and go their separate ways, carrying the lesson with them. The end.